What's up, everybody? We live in a fairly judgmental world where people are judging you and you're judging others. So in this video, I thought I would give you some keys on how you can be less judgmental. So stay tuned. Look, judgments are pretty natural. They come standard with being a human being. We have a tendency to judge others all the time. It's interesting because we all make mistakes. We all mess up, but when we mess up, we kind of downplay it, but when others mess up, we kind of amplify it. We have a tendency to minimize the pain we cause others, but maximize the pain others cause us. And in a sense, that contributes to us becoming very judgmental. We believe that how we live, what we believe is the truth, and how we live is the right way, and anyone who believes differently is wrong. And it's very difficult for people to let go to the idea that they might not have all the answers. So I thought I'd give you two concepts in this video that can help contribute toward how you can take steps to being less judgmental. The first is called asymmetric insight. Now that's a fancy term, but here's what it means. It means that we have a tendency to believe that we're really deep and mysterious, but other people are shallow and predictable. And the funny thing about that concept is we all experience this. Think about it. If you are in a disagreement with someone else, you believe that they just don't see the reality of what you see, whereas you obviously know the entirety of their argument. And so we really convince ourselves that we're deep and mysterious and have a whole lot more to us than we can explain, but the people we argue against or believe differently from, we think, no, their argument's a piece of cake, it's just this. And we go on deluding ourselves and living in our egos, believing that we really have the answers and other people don't. So asymmetric insight is one way we fool ourselves into being judgmental of others and justifying and rationalizing why it's okay for us to be judgmental. Another concept that keeps us locked into our egos and kind of contributes to us being judgmental is something called hindsight bias. Hindsight bias occurs when we hear information and once it makes sense to us and it really resonates with us, we believe we knew it all along. So for instance, maybe asymmetric insight or even the concept hindsight bias. If you didn't know those terms before you started this video, but now they resonate with you and you start to throw them around to others, like obviously it's asymmetric insight and my goodness, they're probably just using hindsight bias, then you can really feed your ego into believing that you have answers and have always had the answers, whereas other people just don't see it. See, I really believe that being aware of things like asymmetric insight and hindsight bias can help us become more humble. Because when we realize that, yes, we are deep and mysterious, but we're also predictable in many ways. But other people, although they are predictable in many ways, are also deep and mysterious. And it's up to us to really see the essence of others. And then when it comes to hindsight bias, to become a little more humble about knowledge. Look, we live in a universe with, we live in a solar system that has, we don't even know exactly how many planets, right? We might say 8 planets and 4 dwarf planets, or maybe there'll be more information tomorrow that'll give us some new insight. But then we live in a galaxy with more than 100 billion stars, and there are maybe more than 2 trillion galaxies. That's a big place. And anytime we're faced with that much unknown, that much mystery, we like to bring it all down to size. So we think whatever we believe must be the truth, whatever we think must be the right way, because we're scared to face that vast unknown. And what happens is we can become so certain of what we believe that we end up being judgmental of others for believing differently. I think it might be more advantageous to us, however, to be more curious about life. Because the more curious we are, the more humble we can be. The more humble we are, the less judgmental we are of others. Look, I've made a career out of specializing with people who have been convicted of some of the most horrific crimes in the world. And the way I'm able to sit with people who have done really horrible things to others and put aside judgment is this. I would never throw away assessment. I think assessing others and assessing a situation is really an important part not only of our society but of survival. So assessment I see as different than judgment. But when it comes to judging others, I've made my career out of working with some people who've done some really tough things, but I make myself a safe space to say, look, whatever happened in the past is done. We can't change it. But as long as you're going to interact with human beings from this moment forward, I want to help you make the best decisions you can from this moment forward. So I really look at people and say, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge anyone? I know I have made beyond countless mistakes in my life, and I've done a lot of things that I wish I hadn't done in my life. I look at life as a classroom, as an opportunity to learn, and I certainly don't believe I have the answers, so it really contributes to me feeling genuinely, authentically with my entire being, not judgmental. I'm just not judgmental toward others because I know I make mistakes. I know asymmetric insight. So in other words, I know that others have a whole lot more depth, even if they have beliefs that are different from my beliefs. I know they have depth. I know they have perspective and reasons for why they believe what they believe. And when it comes to that hindsight bias, I think it's really an important concept because it takes away a little bit of that arrogance to say, well, I already knew that. And it puts us in a position of humility to say, hey, thanks for teaching me. Because we are constantly learning and we are surrounded by a lot of knowledge. So I would invite you, in being less judgmental, to be more curious, to be more open, to be more accepting, to understand that people are doing what they're doing for a reason. I believe we all do the best we can with what we have in any given moment. And just as much as you don't want to be judged, I would invite you to do your best to be less judgmental. More than anything, as always, I wish you much peace.